Well, good morning and welcome to today's Inkish Bonjour. My name is Richard Askham. You'll notice that I'm not Morten Rytoft, and I think everybody's grateful for that this morning. It's Sunday morning, middle day of Drupa this year. We're halfway through, Pat. I'm here with Pat McGrew, my favourite person in the world.
We have a good time together.
We generally do, but we shouldn't talk about that on camera, Pat. So,
That's probably true.
And we're joined today by Diaz and Jordi Giralt, or George Clooney as he likes to be known apparently. We've had that conversation this morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
And we should explain that Diego is with HP and is bringing a set of great stories about the use of robotic technology that HP is working with right now. And Jordi, not to be outdone, is with Comma and also has a really great robotics story. So if we're picking up a theme here,
it's robots.
Right? It's not, both companies can talk to you about fabulous printing and embellishment stories. The Comma brochure is pretty darn interesting, right? I think it's absolutely beautiful. I know of a gentleman called Wayne Beckett who's extremely proud of his role in it. It's just really cool. But I think, can we start with the robotic technology because I love it?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So, Diego, can I start with you, please? Because I saw your toy, and for me, robotics brings superpowers to printers because it allows you to reduce your labor load while continuing to grow your business. Could you talk about how HP decided to move in that space?
Sure. So I'll set that up a little and just say, you may know me from being on the other side, being on the side of being a print shop owner for a long time.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing there was always being an employer. So when I came into this role, I struggled at first with kind of that idea of, are we really replacing labor? And, as someone that loves being an employer, is reducing people really where we want to go? And as I spent more time at more shops, what I realized is that this is necessary for shops to stay in business, period. And end of story there, because I ran into so many companies that were going out of business because their press operator was retiring or they lost people in the pandemic and they simply couldn't go on more. So this is actually about enabling employment. This is about enabling businesses to survive. And that really, set my mind at ease and made me say, I need to work faster at this because the pandemic has only made labor prices rise, has only made labor harder to get. And this is a twofold thing of, one, we're struggling to get the young generation excited in print, but by bringing robotics in, we actually are getting the young generation excited in print. So
I think this has always been the argument.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I think this has always been the argument, Diego, hasn't it? That the print industry is actually the tech industry. It just doesn't know it.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
true. It's in sheep's clothing, right? And the other thing you can do when you introduce this technology is these young people coming in, you don't have to have them moving paper around. You can have them working with the technology that builds a better workflow for the shop.
And that's why, I know it's kind of a buzzword catchphrase thing, but that's why I'm so excited to introduce this as an Industry 5.0 solution, is because the whole idea behind Industry 5.0 is to be human-centric. And it's how do we make life better for people? And this really does. This takes all of the dangerous aspects of the work out, where you're not breaking your back, you're not making potential injury or damage to equipment or even damage to pellets. It's amazing how when you're moving things with robots, no damage happens.
The worrying thing for me, Pat, is that 5.0 is how we're measuring how long we've been in the print industry.
Let's just not even have that conversation,
let's leave that right there.
Right, we'll leave that right there. So, Jordi, you've also you've got this new solution that you've brought to the market that is also robotics based. Can you talk a little bit about the value proposition? Because we're in the Comma stand, and we know you for other things, and now you're dipping your toes in this other direction. What made you go?
So, see, this is the reason why Diego and we are good friends and we know each other for a long time, because we have been discussing about that type of solutions for already some time. So here at Comma, we have our bread and butter business, our standard machines to do die cutting, folder and gluers, and so on. And we are bringing the last piece of innovation, which complements what Diego just explained, which is not only moving pallets from here to there, it's also loading and unloading the machines and the tooling on the machines. So we have worked on a concept which, using his concept, we can load our machines, we can change the tooling. So basically, by pressing a button on the printing machine, you get the finished box at the end of our folder and gluer, because we are the only company in the world, as far as we know, having a fully automated folder and gluer. By changing automatically the die cutting tool in the die cutter, and because we have also an automatic stripping and blanking unit, a robot can pick up the blanks from the stripping and blanking unit, bringing them to one of his pallets. His pallets are bringing the blanks to our folder and gluer. The folder and gluer gets automated setup, and then we end with the box ready to be filled.
So less damage to the material, less damage to the dies, faster changeover probably.
Less human interaction with the end product, which in business like pharma is extremely important.
Sure. Yeah.
And because we had many customers already telling us about their worries about all of this, we just introduced this concept.
Wow. Now that's cooperation, isn't it? Yeah. So that's a pretty cool
That's
story.
why we are best friends.
Well, I mean, if you know Diego, you always want to be best friends with him because he's always got the cool ideas. And you are always working with cool technology as well. So I'm not surprised to see you together. But if you think about, so how do you have this conversation with a printer, right? So I think of all the printers I talk to who dream of being able to automate as much as possible. Yep. They're all fighting the same battles. Yep. We're having trouble getting labor, but even the labor we have, we would like to use better. We would like to give them more valuable job paths. So how do you start the conversation to say, I have a solution for you. It's not going to be $1.50 or €1.50. It's going to be a little.
So let me give a first answer and then you go with that. So actually, Diego and I will start talking about different projects. So because we met once in Denmark, and then
and it just takes off.
It was like a brainstorming. So what about this? What about that?
That's life with Diego.
Thank you, Inkish, by the way.
It was
Inkish TV. It just happens, naturally, doesn't it? Really, yeah.
When you meet Diego, this will happen. It's just normal.
If by naturally you mean Morton, yes.
Okay. I'd never put those two words in the same sentence, but yeah, keep going, Jordi.
Yeah, so we started talking about different projects, and the first project that we had together didn't work very well, not because of us, it was because of other circumstances.
Things happen.
The project now is working, so there is a solution, but not with us involved, but that's no matter. And now this is our second, let's say, project together, which I think is going to be a big milestone in that type of production.
So how do you tell it to a printer? And I know you're good at this because you can start with the I've been a printer card.
So I actually will say I don't think it's a difficult conversation for anyone to understand or get. They see the labor savings. When you're talking about a fully automated folding carton line that you can have, one operator overseeing kind of the whole thing, that's a big deal. Every printer gets the ROI there. The bigger part is the believability of it. It feels so future and far off, and the fact is this is real. Like, come on over to our booth now, Hall 17, it's happening. You can watch the robots load and unload the press. You can watch where it will take, out of the stacker of the press, and that's where it would bring it straight over to the Kama die cutter, load it up. All of this is real. All of this is happening. This is today.
And people buy with their eyes, right? So
they do. It's emotional.
Totally.
But
in this business, we are now talking a lot, and maybe you have the same discussions. Everything is about productivity. So these discussions about big volumes are not really happening anymore. So it's about being very efficient, very productive, doing what the market is asking for today. So the demands, the trends are totally different than 10 years ago. And we need to adapt to all of this. So the world is changing, and we need to follow.
Jordi, I think it has that lovely consequence of drawing another generation into this industry, because it's another touch point from a technical perspective that is way more interesting to the younger generation.
It makes us much more sexy for the younger generation.
You see, he can say that because he
can.
looks like George Clooney.
Well, this is the story, and the accent will do it as well.
He's got me.
Yeah,
He had me at
absolutely.
hello. So
As I've known Jordi a long time, and I have to say, I don't hear the accent anymore. I just hear Jordi. But if you first meet him, it is kind of sexy.
we should move on.
We should. Anyway, at any rate, so but I want to come back to this idea of the sale, right?
Yeah.
Because you're saying that it. I mean, you're essentially saying it almost sells itself because of the operational efficiency you gain, but somebody still has to write a check. So they have to justify it in the context of their business.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're asking you for numbers, proof points, and you know, they want to know what the sustainability story is around, and I'm sure you have them.
Oh yeah. So one of the things that I actually think isn't thought about enough, and that's why I want to mention it here, is when we talk about shifts and overall equipment usage. A lot of the equipment in a lot of shops today, especially with labor shortages, are not running 24/7. And there is, no matter how fast a piece of equipment is or how efficient it is, if you're only running it 8 hours a day, it's going through 2/3 of its life unproductive, just sitting there. One of the great things that robots can bring to the equation is now with a minimum staff, because it's hard to find people that want to work nights. So, but with a minimal staff and even with minimal training, when the robot is doing all the die changes and things like that, now you can have people that are able to oversee the robots with a small skeleton crew, and you can run 24/7. And that's one of the biggest value adds that robots can bring, is now the machine utilization can go closer to 100% than it ever has been.
And this is where the maths has to change, doesn't it, Diego, in people's
Exactly.
heads? Because if you
Exactly.
frame the whole conversation around an 8-hour working day, you're missing 16 hours of maths.
Exactly.
But it's not only that, it's also the skills of the operator. So usually the operator working in the daily shift is much more skilled than the operator working in the night shift, without talking about the weekends. So it's about making a very good use of the equipment that you have, having always the same quality. Does not matter if it's Monday evening, Monday morning, or Saturday evening.
How long does it take to train someone to be a competent operator?
I will say it's different in our cases. So in my machines, in some of the machines, there is a lot of artisan work, and it's not easy to find that type of skills in the market. And it was always one of the concepts of Kama, trying to offer easiness of use to our customers. Our machines are quite easy to be operated compared to our competitors, but still it's needed some type of knowledge about the end product, because if you don't know how the end product has to be, it's difficult to set up the machine. Bringing robots to that makes everything much easier.
So, Jordi, talk to me a little bit about what it takes to design for your machine. So you brought to us like the cutest thing in the universe. So please watch. And it opens it, and please meet the Kama cookies.
It's amazing how impressed we are.
We are so impressed with this.
Origami has been around for millennia,
forever.
and yet here we are this morning.
We are here playing with it, but
We're talking about robots.
I
and we're doing-
gotcha. Hey.
It's much easier to open than to close. I can tell you that.
Good point.
But the trick is that designers have to know that these things are possible. So how do we get the word out, and what do they need to know to be able to design this kind of product?
So see, let me use this brochure, because I'm here at Drupa, I'm telling to everyone, see what we can do with our die cutter. And they say, Jordi, your English is not so good. So die cutter, so this is about embellishment. So something that we offer is flexibility with our machines. We can do many operations with the same equipment just to protect the investment of our customers. So one machine to do many things. And yes, in many cases, we have to explain to customers all the different possibilities that they have with our equipment. But we want to be a little bit away from these discussions of this machine is for pure embellishment, and this is something that requires a lot of time, skills. It's also cutting. So we want to open possibilities to customers. So many of our customers, they start being commercial printers, and thanks to all the possibilities that they have with our machines, now they are in packaging.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's quite a
So
shift.
And
it's a
that's the
journey.
hot
It's a journey
topic.
that in many cases we work with our customers. So they start buying a machine to do functional cutting, and they end with this.
And your packaging, of course, is your first salesman these days. You know, in the world that we're all in as consumers, it's our first touch point in a lot of cases with online purchasing. So if that there used to be an expression that was told to me years ago called doorstep wow.
Yeah.
Very American. So
It is, yeah.
but it does start the second that guy's walking up your driveway with a parcel. That should be your first hello, shouldn't it? And with this sort of technology, it's incredible.
And so, Jordi, if I buy one of your machines, is there a design guide that comes with it that I can get help?
If you buy one machine, you will have two helping you. So I prepare the contract right now after the
If it would fit in my garage,
I see what he did there.
we could have a conversation. But right now there's 14 cars in the garage, and I don't think I have room for your machine.
But see, usually when we sell a machine, our customers, they know what they buy, of course.
So they're ready.
Yeah, they're ready. But for the type of application, so this is something that requires knowledge, as I told you. Die cutting is usually much easier than this. So we offer application engineers helping the customers to understand how to make the most of the machine.
Okay. And then, Diego, when you start talking to printers about the possibilities of integrating the AMRs into their environment, what kind of guidance do you give them? How do you help them get started?
Sure. So because this is so new for a lot of the printing industry, and thankfully it's not new for a lot of the manufacturing industry as a whole, as far as this is fairly mature, so we have our talk tracks down, we have lots of experience in manufacturing plants of how to really optimize setups and how to provide guidance on how to gain the most efficiency. But because robots are new in the printing industry, we provide a lot of hand-holding there, as far as there's a lot of consultation and a lot of really process overview. So this is where we're doing more than just sell a robot and here a box shows up and there's your robot. No.
Plug it in.
This is process consulting where we're going to walk the warehouse, we're going to walk the production floor, and we're going to help with, should paper be here? Should it be on racks? Where should we build staging areas? How should we build those staging areas? Because it is a completely different mindset when you're trying to optimize production and the sky is the limit versus having to think of only, how do people communicate with each other? Now, when you bring robots into the equation, it's amazing the visual cues that you don't need because everything is happening wirelessly and all communication is happening in real time across the building, across hundreds of feet with no visual sight needed.
So robotics are superpowers. So we've come to the end of our time together this morning.
Yeah.
And
I'm still quite engaged with the box, if I'm honest.
I'm still playing with that. I'm going to be doing that forever.
That's why we're all here.
I want to thank both of you because I think these are the things printers need to know. They need to know the possibilities that new technology is bringing to all of us to help us grow our businesses. So thanks so much for taking time with us this morning. And Richard, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And thank you to Diego and to Jordi. Looking forward to seeing you in Oceans 14. For Inkish Bonjour, my name is Richard Askham and I've been with Pat McGrew, and we'll see you somewhere soon.